As I was thinking about what I would talk about this evening, I remembered a poem that I included with my high school yearbook photo, and I hate to admit it, but 35 years ago this spring. The poem was written by the Danish writer Piet Hein, and it reads as follows: "Impossibilities are good not to attach that label to, since correctly understood, if we wanted to be able to, we would be able to be able to." Now what does that all say? Well, to this day, I can't really tell you what the impetus was for my wanting to include this specific poem in my yearbook photo. What I can tell you, however, is that this poem has directed my thinking since graduating from high school in 1975. Rather than thinking about ideas I want to accomplish in my life as impossibilities, I think of them as goals to which I want to aspire. And I'll get into goal setting a little bit further down the road here. If I thought long and hard about what might have been the motivating factor for me wanting to include Piet Hein's poem with my yearbook photo, I might say that it was the passage of Title IX legislation in 1972, which was my sophomore year in high school. All of a sudden, myriad opportunities opened up for girls and women in sport, society, and the workplace. This was a very exciting time in history as a balanced playing field became a priority in the lives of women everywhere in the United States. What might have been perceived as an impossibility was now a realistic opportunity. For example, when I first started high school, there were very few opportunities for girls in sports. With the advent of Title IX, more and more opportunities availed themselves in what seemed to be only a short period of time. Swimming, track and field, tennis, gymnastics, and later soccer and volleyball were added to the existing bare bones roster of field hockey, basketball, and softball. In my younger days of growing up with three brothers, there were very few opportunities for me in sports outside of neighborhood baseball games and kickball games, and it was at this time I was trying to shed a tomboy image, so it was even more difficult for me to participate with the boys. And I can often remember the times when I would go to their baseball games, and as summer approached and families started to leave on vacations, the teams barely had enough players to field the team, and I would lean over the fence thinking that one of the coaches would call me in, but that never happened. So I was left on the other side of the fence all too often for my liking. Even in the beginning days of girls' high school track, we weren't allowed to run anything over the 880, or what we now call the 800-meter run. After the mile was added to the event schedule during my junior year, we could opt to run the mile, but only at the expense of not participating in any other events. And at that time, the so-called experts in the field thought that if a girl ran over a mile, she would do bodily harm and never be able to bear children. Well, I'm happy to say that 2 children later, and 140,000 plus miles later, I'm still, as John and Kyle said, pounding the pavement.